figure these things out.
Yeah,
Okay, ready to get started. I think we've done enough, and hopefully some other people will join.
Okay.
So if you both want to introduce yourself, Janice, if you want to go first, she'll be doing the first part. I'll start off just introducing myself. My name is Depali Bajaj Oliver. I'm a student intern with the Jacksonville Urban League, and I chose to reach out to Planned Parenthood because I am very passionate about the topic of women's health, and I feel that the last couple years have been really difficult for our country as a whole, just with the state of women's health. And that's why I chose this topic. So I hope that viewers and watchers later on enjoy and get some educational benefit out of this.
Okay, that's good. Well, as Depali said, I work with Planned Parenthood. My name is Janice, and I work as a medical assistant at our health center. Working in the health center, I've experienced a lot of things. I've seen many, many things that focus in on women's health and why it's very important to stay active and fighting for women's health, and why it's very important to have access to a lot of things that we need as women. So the one being that we're talking today is about birth control, and right now it's under attack by a lot of politicians, and I will just be discussing why it's important to have it and keep fighting for access to birth control for everyone.
Thank you both. My name is V, she, they. I'm with Planned Parenthood Southeast North Florida affiliate network. I'm a peer education coordinator for currently Broward, but about to be Miami. And I'll be talking a little bit more about the legal implications of some of the laws that we're seeing passed through this legislative session. So previously talking about the 15-week abortion ban that's currently in effect, the 6-week ban that just passed, and the 24-hour waiting period that's currently in effect across Florida. I'm also going to be talking about some reasons that people may need or want an abortion. And I will be, even though this is specifically focused on women's health, and it's a town hall specifically for that, I am going to be using gender neutral language because this is an issue that affects anybody who can get pregnant. So the term I'll be using is people who can get pregnant.
Okay, I will share my screen and get started with the PowerPoint. Okay, can you guys see the PowerPoint okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. We want to get started right here.
Okay, so as I was saying, birth control has been a topic that's been discussed for a very, very, very long time. It was first recognized to be under attack in 1965. So it's been around for a long time, the conversation of whether birth control is a constitutional right or not. So if you all do not know, with the decision of Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Center and Roe v. Wade that got turned back in June of 2022, the floodgates have basically opened and allowed a lot of things to be scrutinized that the Supreme Court has already ruled on previously. So there is a justice named Clarence Thomas, who states that the right to marry without restriction or the right to use birth control are not protected by the Constitution. So they've had the discussion about it, and they've used previous cases like the Griswold v. Connecticut or the Eston Bits v. Connecticut. And basically in both cases, it just states that people that are married have the right to use contraceptive, and people that are not married also have the right to contraceptive. So they use multiple cases to protect it, but it does not stop people who do not want people to have access to birth control and scrutinizing past cases and wanting to come back and take away birth control right from everyone. So the Right to Contraceptive Act is basically the act of being able to use contraceptive, get access to contraceptives, and use contraception. So the contraceptive was the Rights to Contraceptive Act was introduced in the House, and it aimed to protect the access of contraceptives and everything, and it was passed in July of 2022. So in total, 435 people vote on bills, and 211 Republicans out of 195 voted against protecting access to contraceptives, and the bill was later blocked by Republicans in the state. When a senator blocks a bill, all it does is delay the process of it. It makes the conversation extremely long, just so that people can try to put in their own inputs to eventually try to take it away. And it just makes the conversation a lot harder to have. But as of right now, it is protected. But like I said, people are still going to try to do whatever they can in their power to take away that right from people. And in Florida, 14 out of 16 Republican representatives voted against passing the Right to Contraceptive Act. So Florida is not the best advocate for birth control. So we need to continue to have conversations like this and let it be known that people need birth control. It's very important to have birth control around, and it is not just for preventing pregnancy, and it has many, many, many other reasons of being used.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Now we'll discuss, you can kind of get into what birth control is and what it's used for.
Okay, so birth control, what it's widely known for is to prevent pregnancy using two hormones, progesterone and estrogen. So progesterone thickens the mucus in the cervix, making it difficult for sperm to enter the uterus, and estrogen prevents ovulation and controls menstrual bleeding. And it controls a little bit of it affects ovulation, basically when your ovaries release eggs. Birth control can also treat hormonal acne depending on how much of the hormones are in a pill or whatever version of birth control the person decides to use. It can help with acne. And when we go through the process of having a birth control visit in the office, we ask patients, what do they want from the birth control? What are the side effects that they don't want to experience? So everything is pretty much tailored to the patient with the percentage of progesterone and estrogen in the form of birth control. So certain forms of birth control are also used to treat PMDD, also known as PMS. So PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and it's a severe version of PMS, premenstrual syndrome. And it basically causes physical and behavioral symptoms that usually result in the onset of menstruation. So before you have your period, you'll get moody, you'll have different hormones going on, and birth control can help regulate your hormones so that you don't have PMDD or PMS, which is something that a lot of people do not want to experience because it can be very traumatic. It's very upsetting to feel like you're not yourself before you have your period. It can cause extreme sadness, hopelessness, you can be irritable or angry, and no one wants to really feel that way before they have the onset of their period, especially if they have some body dysphoria. So birth control is a great way of preventing things like that. And the hormonal birth control options can also treat very heavy or irregular menstrual cycles. Heavy periods can be caused by many things, and the solution to them is birth control. There are other options out there as well, but birth control is a very good one to help these things. And the pain associated with menstruation as well. Some people have really bad cramps that can come with the onset of endometriosis, for example, and people do get birth control prescribed to them to help with these cramps and prevent the bleeding between cycles as well. And studies have shown that oral contraceptives are known to decrease the chances of developing uterine and ovarian cancers because birth control does affect ovulation. Certain forms of birth control does affect ovulation. And if you're not ovulating, then your ovaries are not releasing the eggs, and that can have a trickling effect to where you're less likely to get uterine or ovarian cancer. So just some quick facts at at Planned Parenthood, we offer 18 different methods of birth control. A lot of them are very inexpensive and some of them are a little bit more on the pricey side. So 6 forms of our birth control are considered 98% effective when used correctly and can cost from $0 to $10,000. Our birth control methods are very low maintenance, like the devices. So we have devices like Kylena, Skyla. These are things that are inserted into your uterus. They're intrauterine devices or IUDs, or we have the Nexplanon, which will be inserted into your arm. We have birth control. We have methods of birth control that you can use on a schedule, like the depot, which is an intramuscular injection in your upper arm, where you would just have to visit us every 3 months. We have the pills that you will have on a daily schedule, and the patch and the vaginal ring that you will have on a weekly schedule.
I'm sorry, let me go back to that.
No problem. And then we have birth control methods that are the every time use. Surprisingly, a lot of people do not know that condoms are a form of birth control, internal and external. They are a form of birth control, and they're just the every time use birth control, as well as spermicides and cervical caps. Then you have your lifestyle versions like fertility awareness, where you track your menstruation on the calendar to see when you're ovulating, when you're not, when your period is going to start. And there's also abstinence. Again, these are lifestyle changes that you would make, but they're also forms of birth control. And then you have the more permanent versions like tubal ligation or a vasectomy. And people between the ages of 15 to 49 use these methods depending on where they are in life, what they want from birth control, and what they feel comfortable with. Okay. So as I was mentioning, we do have many versions of birth control out there. So for sterilization, that is tubal ligation. So with the tubal ligation, it is a permanent form of contraceptive. And with tubal ligation, the tubes are either burned shut, which is cauterized, or they're clamped off with a small clip or ring, which is the band method, or completely removed surgically. And this is one of the more pricier versions of birth control, but again, it is offered. It is something that someone would make the decision based off of their lifestyle, what they want, if they want to eventually, if they ever want to have kids, if they don't, that's up to them. So with the birth control pills, this is the most common version that people usually go with because it's the most expressed one that people want to use and people know about. So with birth control pills, we have either the estrogen or progestin only pills, or the like a combination of progestin or estrogen, or just the progestin only pills. So again, it depends on what you want for your birth control, of what birth control pill you would be prescribed by a provider. And the IUDs or implants, those are the device. IUDs go into your uterus and the implant is in your arm. We have the Paragard that can be from 10 years that has no hormones. We put a copper ring around the device and it goes into your uterus. The Nexplanon is the one that goes into your arm for 5 years. The Skyla is in your uterus for 3 years. The Mirena is 7 years. Kylena, 5 years. And the Liletta is 6 years. So the devices that go into your uterus, except for the Paragard, they all have progestin only, and the doses vary depending on what you want from your birth control. And there's no estrogen in them, so it's fewer hormone side effects. And with condoms, this form of contraceptive, it's the most common form as well, outside of birth control pills, that you can buy from anywhere. We give them for free at our clinic. So if needed to get a condom, you can just walk into a Planned Parenthood and ask us for condoms, and we will gladly give them.
Okay, if you want to turn it over to V.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for all of that information, Janice. It was amazing. So I'm going to be addressing some of the reasons someone might want or need an abortion within the context of the laws that are relevant to Floridians. So the laws that we're going to address when it comes to abortion access are the 24-hour waiting period, the 15-week ban, and now the 6-week abortion ban. So that is what I'm going to go over. So as is read on the screen, on June 6, 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This decision dismantled 50 years of legal protections and paved the way for individual states to curtail or outright ban abortion rights. In anticipation of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, DeSantis, the governor of Florida, signed a 15-week abortion ban in April of 2022. Since June 6, 2022, 12 states have completely banned abortions. 32 states banned abortion after a specified point in pregnancy, like 15-week ban or 16-week ban. 15 states require a person seeking an abortion to wait a specified period of time before their abortion. So like in Florida, that's a 24-hour waiting period. And 24 states require some type of parental involvement for a minor to get an abortion. And if there are no parents involved, or if they're not able to communicate with them for whatever reason, a teen would be able to get a judicial bypass. On April 13th, 2023, Governor DeSantis signed a six-week abortion ban in Florida after it passed the House and the Senate. So I'm going to first address the 24-hour waiting period and then go from there. So Florida law requires that a person have at least 2 in-person appointments, at least 24 hours apart, to obtain an abortion. So the first visit includes lab work, ultrasound, education, pregnancy options, and a meeting with a physician to discuss the abortion procedure. And then the second visit includes the abortion procedure, whether that be an in-clinic abortion or the abortion pill. So what does that mean for abortion patients? It means that they must appear in person for these appointments, even if it's a consultation for the abortion pill, meaning they cannot go through telehealth services. And if they needed to override the 24-hour waiting period, they can, but with very limited exceptions. So the exceptions are provided on a case-by-case basis to survivors of rape, incest, domestic violence, or human trafficking, but these exceptions are only granted if the patient provides the following documentation: a police report, which more often than not requires a survivor to submit a rape kit, a court order, or a medical report. And the thing with these forms of documentation is that the burden of proof for this kind of trauma is oftentimes overwhelming for someone is condom stealthed, meaning their partner took the condom off during penetrative sex and did not disclose or ask for consent. That is assault. And there are reported cases of penis owners doing this to force their partner into an unwanted pregnancy. In that case, the survivor may potentially have no context for their early pregnancy symptoms, especially if they have a condition like PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which symptomatically creates irregular periods. So in that case, the survivor may pass the 6 weeks of pregnancy without realizing that they're pregnant, and then the rape or incest exception no longer applies to them because this exception only applies to overriding the 24-hour waiting period if your pregnancy is within the first 15 weeks, which will soon be the first 6 weeks of pregnancy. So there's also another exemption that I want to talk about, which specifies that if the patient has had a miscarriage or there is no fetal heartbeat, that patient does not have to wait for the 24 hours or appear for 2 appointments. I think that these exemptions really highlight the contradictions that lie in these laws through this harrowing testimony that was published last week. It was published with the headline reading, "Florida woman denied abortion, miscarried in her hair salon bathroom, lost half of her blood." So I'm sure it's a story that you saw in the news or somewhere online. And I'm going to share the details of this story that was originally published in the Washington Post, but I'm going to offer a trigger warning that there's going to be some graphic details that are discussed. So I just want you to be mindful of that and take care of yourself as you need to, as we're saying this story. So in mid-December, Anya Cook, who was nearly 16 weeks pregnant when her water broke, long before a fetus could survive outside the womb, She went to an emergency room in Coral Springs, Florida, so down in South Florida, where the doctor said that she was experiencing a rare complication that occurs in less than 1% of pregnancies called pre-viability premature rupture of the membranes, or PPROM. Once the amniotic sac breaks, there's a risk of infection, which can be life-threatening, even in pregnancies several weeks further along than Cook's. So typically doctors would induce labor or perform an abortion, but the ER doctor said that they couldn't induce her due to the state's abortion ban. So they sent her home. A nurse gave her antibiotics and promised to pray for her. And the next day, Cook ended up miscarrying her daughter, who she planned to call Bunny, in the bathroom of her hair salon. Her husband, Derek, had to sever the umbilical cord by pulling it apart with his hands. And Cook told the Post that blood splattered across the floor. And according to the medical records, she lost roughly half of the blood in her body over the course of the day. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital to stabilize her and remove any remaining pregnancy tissue from her uterus. And the OBGYN on call that day told Derek that Anya could die in the operating room and said, "I'll do my very best, but the rest is up to God." She was hospitalized for 6 days. Like many health exemptions for abortion bans, Florida's did not prevent this woman from almost dying. The Florida law allows abortions after 15 weeks in order to save the pregnant person's life or avert a serious risk of substantial or irreversible physical impairment of a major bodily function. But you can see how in this case, Cook's life was not immediately in danger after her water broke, but just the next day, she lost life-threatening amounts of blood. So a hospital spokesperson did mention that Cook did not necessitate an abortion in the emergency department. So following the repeal of Roe v. Wade, Florida saw the largest 6-month increase in legal abortions for any state. People who had to travel across state lines for care likely accounted for about 5% of those abortions. And the nearby states, Georgia and South Carolina, effectively have 6-week bans, while Alabama and Mississippi both banned abortion outright. So in Florida, abortion care is still safe, legal, and accessible, despite the recent Supreme Court ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade. But the state's 15-week abortion ban is currently the law that is in effect. So the state is still awaiting a verdict from the Florida Supreme Court on whether the 15-week ban that was signed into law last July can continue to be upheld, while this even stricter 6-week ban is now waiting in the wings to replace it. So as a nation, we're also waiting on the verdict from the Supreme Court, but at the moment they have preserved the FDA approval of the abortion pill mifepristone. So mifepristone was first approved in 2000 as the first dose in a widely used 2-drug protocol approved to induce some first trimester abortions. And GenBioPro received FDA approval for its generic version in 2019. So in a federal lawsuit that was filed today in Maryland, drug manufacturer GenBioPro asked the judge to prohibit the FDA from taking any action that would disrupt access to the pills. And GenBioPro says that revoking the FDA approval of generic mifepristone would cause catastrophic harm to the company, the doctors, and the patients who rely on the drug. So 2 facts that are really important to note as we're navigating these abortion access bans is that 1, most people do not know that they are pregnant by 6 weeks of gestation. And 2, 95% of Planned Parenthood's abortion services are provided to patients after the 6-week mark. So this 6-week abortion ban would significantly increase already long waitlist times and increase medical complications associated with abortions. Some of our clinics have 118% waitlist already with just the 15-week ban in effect. So you can imagine what the wait list will look like once the 6-week ban goes into effect. And imagine those wait times going even higher if the FDA approval of mifepristone is withdrawn nationally. So Regardless of gestational age or medical complexity, Planned Parenthood has a commitment to all of our patients, and we have patient navigators that are here and committed to help connect you with the care that you need. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us. And there are also some online databases that will help you find an abortion if you or someone you know needs these services. So I'm going to include those in the chat. And that's www.abortionfinder.org. Or if you're looking for the abortion pill, plancpills.org. And, obviously I'm advertising that as both of these services are still legal, and you can navigate what that looks like for you on those sites. But like I said, we have patient navigators. We have a number that you can call and you can contact us and you can talk through this whole process with somebody. So thank you. We can go over the chart that goes over some of the reasons that somebody would get an abortion. I kind of talked a little bit about the personal narratives and the ways that the law has intersected with people's personal testimonies of why they've needed an abortion. But there's a research that has been done that surveyed women and people who need abortions, that it was people who had at least one abortion over a 5-year period of time. It surveyed the reasons that they got that abortion. And so the results were as followed. 40% of folks said that it was financial preparedness. The state of the economy is something that I think weighs heavily on many of us, with the fact that minimum wage is something that's not livable. Unaffordable housing is something that's still widespread and rampant. I know Miami has been considered one of the most unaffordable places to live in the entire country, and across Florida and across the nation. We're seeing prices of the housing market skyrocket, interest rates skyrocket, and so we're seeing inflation even in the price of eggs. So financial preparedness is something that's extremely relevant for our lives. The cost of having a child is very expensive, and not everybody is prepared for that kind of a financial commitment. Timing, again, this could play in with the financial preparedness component and or an emotional component. It could be so many different reasons as to why it's not the right time for somebody to have a child. And that was 36% of the patients who underwent that procedure, so that it was timing that was an element for them. 31% said it was issues with a partner. Like we had mentioned, somebody could be in an abusive relationship, and the bargaining tool that's used against them to keep them in that relationship and keep them in the cycle of abuse is a forced pregnancy. So it could be as serious as something like an abusive domestic violence situation, or it could be something as simple as, we're having a lot of fights, and it's something that's stressing us both out. Stress is something that affects the health of the pregnant person and the fetus. There are many studies that show the connection, and it's something to keep in mind. It's everybody's right as to whether or not they want to bring a child into a relationship that isn't the most stable. 29% said they were busy with other children. So if, there's so many different layers that could stack on, but if you already have a couple of children, it could be just financially, in terms of like the economy of time. Like you literally might not have enough time in your day, or enough time to even go through the pregnancy process. You have to do classes, you have to, do certain prenatal care, you have to take time off of work. Your job might not offer you maternity leave. There's so many different components that could cause somebody to experience undue hardship in life with having more children than they already have. 20% said that it interferes with future plans. That could mean, maybe somebody is in school, or, they're currently on a specific track, or they got into a specific program, or they're, somewhere in their career, and they just do not have the capacity with how their day looks. It would completely change their lifestyle. And so everybody has that right over autonomy over their bodies. 19% said lack of emotional or mental preparedness. Something that's not talked about enough, but the number one cause of death among new birth givers or people who give birth is suicide. So postpartum depression is something that's very real. It's very scary for a lot of people that have pre-existing mental health diagnoses. And a lot of people that, for instance, if you are on HRT, gender affirming care, or you are, on any kind of psychiatric medication, you are on an SSRI, you are on a mood stabilizer, an antidepressant, you might not be able to take any of those medications when you become pregnant. In fact, most of those medications you cannot continue when you become pregnant, which could potentially be life-threatening or fatal for somebody who depends on those things. Somebody could experience deep gender dysphoria by having to be forced to be pregnant when that's not something that they want to lifetime. 12% said health issues, like we talked about in those narratives before. Health is something that we have to consider in the larger context of why people do not want to go through with a pregnancy. Pregnancy is more dangerous than getting an abortion, a safe, legal, accessible abortion. We have seen just in the past 3 years that maternal mortality rates have continued to increase by threefold. We're looking at staggering statistics, and that's tripled when we're talking about Black and Brown mothers and people who can get pregnant. Dynamics that exist. 12% said unable to provide a good life, and this is the thing about having access to these kinds of services. It's your right whether or not you want to have a child, and it is your parameters as to how you determine what is a good life for that child. What is a good life for one in the eyes of one parent is not for the other. And so we cannot predetermine that for somebody based off of income or where, any of their other conditions that exist around them. They have the right for self-determination. 7% said not independent or mature enough. And again, it is up to the individual whether or not they feel like they are ready for that kind of a life-altering decision. You have at least 18 years legally that you have to care for that child, teen into adulthood. And that's a steep investment. 5% influence from family or friends. Yeah, I'm sure that there are influences that exist on both sides. And like, for instance, just to throw that out there, there are fake crisis pregnancy centers that if you go into the center will try to convince you, is within their business model to try to convince you to not get an abortion. And they strategically place themselves right next to actual legitimate abortion providers. So for instance, down here, next to our Planned Parenthood Health Center that provides abortions, 0.1 miles is a crisis pregnancy center that exists just on the other side of the street. So they are about to get $25 million in funding from this current administration to expand their services, to provide free pregnancy tests, free ultrasounds, free STI testing, free medical services that there's no medical providers that are providing you those services. So it's something that there exists even structurally larger influences that are trying to convince people and trying to make their decision for them when they should be offered all of the options for their pregnancy and have their autonomy to decide what is best for them in their life in that moment. And 3% don't want children at all. And I'd say that that percentage is probably higher. I know a lot of people in my generation do not want children. Why? The state of affairs, the climate, everything. So yeah, that's some, but not all reasons why somebody may want and or need an abortion. And it's something that as we're navigating this, please take care of yourselves. There are networks out there to provide peer support. Florida Access Network has one of those spaces that provides some peer support, mental health. It's not counseling, it's peer support, which I want to make the distinction. It's folks that have also experienced getting an abortion, and they hold space for other folks that have gotten an abortion to be able to talk about their experience in a non-judgmental space. So if you're looking for those resources, Florida Access Network, they also have abortion funds, and they will get you a plan from A to Z on how to get to the clinic, how to get your pills, and we'll help you with a financial assistance component as well. Like I mentioned before, we have patient navigators through Planned Parenthood as well. And if you are a teen that needs these services, we have a specific line that you have to call. You cannot make your appointment online. So please make sure that as you're looking this information up, you're going to our website and you're looking at this information through there. And make sure that you are looking on the websites that people like us are providing to you, so that you don't accidentally go to the wrong place, like a crisis pregnancy center.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was really helpful. And I'm really happy that you were able to touch on the crisis pregnancy center situation, because I've seen a lot of those. I don't live in Florida, but I have seen a lot of those pop up more recently. So lastly, if anyone who joined us today has any questions for either of our guests, now would be the time to ask. So please unmute yourself and ask away.
Okay. Hi. Good evening. So my question is related to birth control, and I've already reached out and gotten an email to follow up, but I am working on helping women to have increasing the amount of women that have free access to birth controls. So my question is, what can we do to support policies, that promote that initiative?
Well, the biggest thing is education. Everyone get educated on what birth control is and where to get it. As far as it being in law and pushing lawmakers to do it, their offices are public. Sending emails, one thing my uncle has told me is you can send an email to anyone, especially if they are a public representative. So I would say is to educate the people that need it, even the people that have questions about it, that aren't really sure what it is, so that they can get in contact with the people that make the laws and the policies about them, to show them that, hey, I was kind of hesitant about birth control, but I've learned these things, and this is how this is why I feel like we need it, and this is why we need access to it. At my health center, we do have programs to help teens get educated on birth control and even get it for free. It's called the Healthy Teens Program. You can find it on our website. We give education on the different methods of birth control. And because you come and seek education from us and you're serious about wanting to protect yourself, we give that to them. You do have to be within a certain age range. It is a teen program, but even for the adults, we still try to have some type of funding for them if they need help with getting birth control.
Okay, that's phenomenal. And I got on late and missed part of your presentation. But I will follow up. And I have to say, I'm glad you said to focus on education, because the part of your presentation that I got, I'm a woman and I couldn't keep up with all of the different forms of birth control. So I can imagine, a young person trying to, even if she was trying to advocate for herself, trying to choose what's best for herself, alone, that can be overwhelming. I'll definitely send you an email tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, I'll be expecting.
And thank you.
No problem.
Something that we do as well, Ms. Brown, is that, at the Jacksonville Urban League, we advocate by sending emails to the politicians that are in our counties and our cities. And so if you're in Jacksonville, you can easily kind of Google who your senators are, and you can send them emails about how you are, passionate about this, you see a need in the community, and you feel like there needs to be more access to free or more affordable birth control options for uninsured and underinsured people.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also wanted to mention that we do have a couple of different branches of Planned Parenthood, and we have one that's Planned Parenthood Federation of Americas, and they do more of like the political advocacy work. So if you subscribe to their newsletter, they send email blasts where they have email templates for any of the actions that they're having. So like right now with the bans, they had an email that if you wanted to add your name, it would send it to the legislators that needed to be contacted. So that's another way that you could get involved. Also, if you're in the Jacksonville area, we have a peer education coordinator area, and I can connect you. And for anybody that wants to do collaboration with Planned Parenthood, we're always looking to figure out innovative ways to reach our community. And so we are more than happy to do a collaboration where if you need like us as educators to come out and do a presentation, or you need us, or like you have an initiative that you've got going and we can support you logistically in any way, we can figure out some kind of plan of action.
Oh, great. So to contact you, well, I have, is it Janice's email? Would I contact you? Can she send me your email or the website? Okay, got it. Great.
Well, I also dropped my email, which is vanessa.villaverde@ppsunful.org.
Okay.
You can CC me on any email, and then I can also connect you to the peer education coordinator in Jacksonville.
Wonderful. And then the website to get connected with sending the letters. Is that okay?
When you email me, I'll include that, and I'll also CC DePauli so that you can include it in whatever, like if this is going on Facebook, like maybe a link additionally.
That would be
Okay,
great.
great. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And for anybody that's listening, if y'all have ideas for how you want to collaborate, areas of the community that we're not reaching, and you're in Florida, we are across the state. We have peer education coordinators, I believe in like 6 different counties. We have health centers all over. So please reach out to us. We can connect you pretty much to who you need to be connected to through the education department, but also through either of us, depending on your need or your ask. We can most likely help you navigate that.
V is very good with the networking.
I got you. We have to fight for our freedom, you know?
Exactly. We have to collaborate and add in a lot of different moving parts in order to have one great goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really appreciate you being on here because I don't, you know, although I'm an educator, I'm still learning all of the different like medical terminology when it comes to like birth control and everything. So I was learning as we were doing this presentation. So thank you.
No problem.
Okay. I'm not sure if anyone else has any other questions, but I wanted to ask you, when you do, I guess, your peer education, is there sex ed in the state of Florida? I'm actually not aware. I know I live in Alabama and I'm an intern in Jacksonville, but I know here in Alabama, we don't have any form of sex education. If there is, it's kind of up to the teacher and what terms the teacher wants to teach the students. So it can be medically inaccurate. So I guess my question is there sex ed in Florida? Which I can guess what I think the answer is to that. And then number two, does Planned Parenthood have any role, or are there any peer educators that work to educate younger populations in middle and high schools?
Yeah, so I can explain that what I do as a peer education coordinator is I have currently a program of light students in Broward County, and we have 7. So Janice was actually one of the original students in our first light program.
It's an amazing
Awesome.
program. I would recommend anybody join a sex education program as a young student because it teaches you a lot. You get 10 times more information with a program like that than you would get in public schools. So I am a big advocate for peer education. I love V's job.
That's awesome. That's so
I know
awesome.
that's right. Yeah. No, and that's like it's beautiful to see also the way that like I feel like the light program is like a pipeline for you to just get involved in this world and like really like if you're passionate about reproductive justice, it's a great like way to just network, to get connected, to go in the direction that you want. Like I have some students who they went up to lobby days and they're like, I want to do work with like, you know, my congressional district. I want to do advocacy work. And so they're probably going to join the Gen X actions that happen on college campuses. That's our Planned Parenthood chapter for college campuses. And then other folks are like, I am super interested in learning about the medical aspect of this. And so that's like, you know, the pipeline that like Janice took. So I think like this is it's really beautiful the way that it's coming out because this program really only started in Florida around, I believe, 2016 or so. And what it is, it's the LIGHT program. It's Leaders Igniting a Generation of Healthy Teens. And what we do is we educate high school teens. So we don't have a middle school program, but we teach from the ages of about 13 upwards of 19, which is kind of the overlap of our healthy teen program. And that is one of the function of the light program. It's to advertise to teens about this healthy teen program, which is free services. You could get your initial visit with a physician at the Planned Parenthood health centers. You can get free STI testing. You can get a pregnancy test. You can get emergency contraception. And I believe you could get 2 different forms of birth control, right? Depot and
Yeah, you can get Depo and the pills. We don't do any devices, just those 2.
okay. And that's completely free for our students.
No charges.
No charges, 13 to 19. And that's it, you know, they need to just go in and say, I'm here and I need services under the Healthy Teens program. So that's, you know, the idea is like I have for my youth in Broward, this month is STI awareness month. So I'm going to have them do some condom kit distributions with flyers for the Healthy Teen program and some STI information. And then they're going to distribute that to teens in their community to help to dispel some of the misinformation because there's a lot of it. And essentially they go through from July of one year to July of the next year. 1 year of like bi-monthly meetings, so 2 meetings every month, where they get taught a new sexual health topic. And then we do community service with them. We have lobby days. So we just did our lobby days in March. They got to meet with legislators. I had 2 of my lights be able to speak at the 6-week abortion ban hearing. So those are like really integral moments of like, your voice matters. And not only are you bringing your voice and your narrative and your story, but also all of the students and the youth and the teens that couldn't come up to Tallahassee, you're bringing their stories as well. So right now we're recruiting in Miami. So we need 17s in Miami, and we're also going to be just going through a new recruitment cycle because July is around the corner. So if anybody is interested, I do have a nomination link for nominating a light that you think will shine brightly in the community. And so I'll include that in the email that I give you.
Do you happen to know if they also have that program in Jacksonville?
They do.
They do. Okay. I will look for that and see if we can include it in our YouTube kind of description.
Sorry, I think I swallowed a bug, but they just in Jacksonville, I believe we're recruiting for 6 students right now.
Okay.
Because we have 1 student. So we are currently like recruiting for like even before July. Okay. So if you know of any students in Jacksonville, please let us know. The nomination link is www.tinyurl.com/ppsenful-light. So I'm going to include it as a link that y'all will have access to. And that has all of the counties on there. So you can nominate somebody from whichever county.
Awesome.
Well, what was the age range again? I'm sorry.
So it's 9th grade to 12th grade for the light program.
Okay.
And then for the healthy teens program, it's 13 to 19. That's for receiving medical services that are health centers.
Got it. Okay.
For that nomination, sorry, this is Jasmine.
Go ahead, Jasmine.
Does the individuals that are nominated, do they have to actually go through an interview process or anything, or is it strictly a nomination and then go through education and from there they can participate?
Yeah, so the nomination is just to say this is somebody who would be great. You can nominate yourself, you can nominate somebody that you know in the community. And then once the nomination happens, they would get a follow-up email that would provide them with the application link, and then they have to do the application. We're going to be coming up with some sessions for like, you know, if anybody has any Q&As about the program, if they have any questions about the application, we'll be doing some workshops on that. But the nomination is just that first step. And then they would follow up with, if they need our assistance with contacting us. But if they want to go straight to the application. And then once they do the application, if they are taken to the next step, they would be contacted for an interview, and then they would be onboarded into the program.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm excited. Like, ooh, new students come our way. Because this is, okay, so to answer your question about is there sex ed in Florida, there is, but there's about to not be. Okay. And let me explain. There is right now in state statute, every county is allowed to determine what goes into the curriculum as long as they comply with a grant that's called a DASH grant. What happened? So the DASH grant goes under, I believe either like it's a medically accurate, peer-reviewed curriculum. It's either Flash or RTR, which is reducing the risk, but I think it's Flash. At least for Broward, it was Flash. So recently we had a fight in terms of the county where DeSantis did a cease and desist letter to 6 different counties, essentially saying that they were out of compliance with the laws that were passed during last legislative session in terms of the parental rights bill, the Don't Say Gay bill, and the Stop Woke Act, and like some other legislation. He said everybody has to go in compliance. And so this letter was sent to school boards. So school boards across Florida were then starting to kind of have to navigate this, that, oh, you're about to lose $8 million in funding if you do not comply. And something that DeSantis did in Broward was 3 of the school board members that we had, he put them on a temporary and then permanent leave and then replace them. So it's kind of his bargaining tool, and people were scared. And it was a statewide coalition effort to make sure that they did not gut sex ed in Broward. That's actually how the light program started in Florida and in Broward. It was started with a coalition of students that were fighting to get this policy in place, called Policy 5315, Family Life and Human Sexuality, that followed the flash curriculum. And it basically designated that the sex ed had to have the standards of being comprehensive, medically accurate, and cover things like HIV education. As you know, Miami, Broward, one of the highest rates of new HIV transmissions in the entire country. We Broward and Miami vacillate between number 1. So we wanted to make sure that that was included, that there was conversations about sexual abuse, that there was conversations about human trafficking, that there was conversations about consent, boundaries. A lot of that was taken out. They did not even want to discuss periods before grade 6. There is no mention of anything related to LGBTQI, removed. Sexual abuse was watered down to unwanted touch. And they really limited the amount of HIV education. And really the requirement is that schools meet once a year and offer a lesson once a year, right? So we went and we made our comments, and we were like, why just make a requirement for annually? Like if you give somebody the bare minimum, sometimes that's what they're going to do, especially if they have all of these other things that they're navigating and having to like spread their resources across. So in terms of the implementation, even though this policy was passed, sex ed has not been implemented in the way that it needs to be for every student to be able to, the large narrative is I either didn't get sex ed, which is why I started this work. I never got sex ed. I was opted out every single year. And other people only get sex ed once a year. And it's like in an auditorium, a 2-hour presentation, and it resembles very much that Mean Girls scene of like, don't have sex because you will die, because you will get pregnant and you will die, So it's county by county. We're seeing that things are shifting, and we won some of the fights in some counties and we lost in other counties. It's still up in the air in Broward. Miami completely lost their sex ed. They have the approval to teach from one textbook, and essentially it's like 6 chapters out of one textbook. It's not even the entire textbook. So they're going to be taking up that fight again this year. But there was HB 1069. That's a preemption on sex ed that was seen through the House. And I don't know where it currently is in terms of like this legislative session, but they were trying to make it so that the state was allowed to, according to whatever they felt like were the standards that were appropriate, which in their language, according to Florida standards, is teaching abstinence only with the aim of promoting a heterosexual monogamous marriage. It's literally the language. And they want to make it so that the state is the only one responsible. The Florida Board of Education is the only one responsible for having eyes on the curriculum. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. Ooh.
And I think that's why the program that you guys have in place, even though it's only a few students, I feel like it's probably definitely making a difference. And so I just wanted to thank both of you for taking out some time and helping me put this together and coming and presenting today. It was very nice working with both of you. I hope that we can work together again in the future because this has been great. And if no one else has any other questions, if you guys want to send me emails with those links, and I will do my best to include them and provide them. I may look for more Jacksonville specific ones so I can share them with our community, but I really appreciate it. And I hope to talk with you both soon again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for putting this together and for having this conversation.
Thank
hosting
you
this.
so much.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This was great and great questions, y'all. Loved it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all. Take care.
Have a good night.